Hello and welcome. This is Nichole Sylvester, host of OSS Show, and I am so grateful to have you here. In this show, I'm going to invite you to open up to limitless possibility and live your best life right now. Not later, but now. This podcast is unedited to give you the realest talk on radical transformation. It's time to reclaim your power, own your worth, and say hell yes to the goodness that awaits. Let's get started. Releasing expired relationships. Ooh, we all know them, right? Whether it's a lover, a friend, or worse, sometimes it's a past lover, right? I have so many questions from people that say, when you have time, can you do a Facebook video on this? Because I just can't seem to get over this person that seemed to do these things that broke my heart, let me down, whatever it may be. And I know all about it. And that's why I'm making this podcast for you today. So what we have to remember is that relationships do expire. Not all of them. It's like that old saying, people come into our lives for a season, a reason, or a lifetime. But I think it's the other way around, right? A reason, season, or a lifetime. But our human hearts, and maybe it's just mine, maybe it's just my friends, maybe it's just my clients, we want everyone to be around for a lifetime, right? Because we love these people, the ones that we tend to get attached to and hang on to. Now, there's all sorts of reasons that we become attached to people, and oftentimes there are lessons there. There are often feelings there that we want to tend to recreate, and we're chasing this initial really good feeling, or perhaps you have a history with someone. I know this to be the case with female friends, with friends who I've had for a while, and then there's that history. So you're like, yeah, but we had all of these great years. But now for some reason, I just feel drained when I go out to dinner with this person, or I don't want to go and accept this invitation. But at the same time, I feel like a bitch if I say no, right? So there becomes this inner conflict of wanting to be the good person, wanting to choose the right thing, do the right thing. But yet there's this inner knowing that something is no longer, or that there's been a shift. The same thing in relationships, right? If we look at the divorce rate in California, it's some incredulous number. We look at the outlook on marriage in general. I happen to believe in marriage. I think it's a beautiful thing in the right conditions, which is true love and true partnership. I don't believe in relationships out of obligation. I believe in relationships that have boundaries, which create a beautiful freedom and independence between two people that come together to create together. And that being said, we have these ideals, and we can call them our most worthy ways of being, right? Like with your friendships, with your love relationships, with your business partnerships. I'm talking all relationships, any relationship between you and another human. And also this comes down to the relationship you have with yourself, which is the core and foundation of all other relationships. So as we deepen into integrity with self, and we lean into our inner authority, trusting ourselves and trusting what we feel, we begin to let go of what no longer serves in powerful ways. So when it comes to relationships expiring, we pay attention to the signals. The signals show up in ways that make you feel either drained, maybe you don't feel good. Like you just don't feel your highest self. When you get around a certain person, you may tend to doubt yourself. You doubt your dreams. You doubt what you say. All of the criticizing coming from someone else. Or it could be someone that is just completely limited. And let's say you're someone that decides to start a business. But you and your former best friends, or your inner circle, you guys all live that corporate lifestyle, and what you used to do was go out for happy hour and bitch about your bosses and complain about what you were getting paid and what the person sitting in the same office was doing to you. But an entrepreneur has no time for that, right? You've moved on. You're on a mission. It's different. So when we lean into that growing gap, we have choices to make. Now, this doesn't mean that we're going to abandon everyone, but here's the key to really exploring relationships and whether it's time to let go or time to dig deeper. And you have to have this level of discernment, meaning that you can feel in like, does this feel right? Does this not feel right? Should I stay? Should I go? Maybe I should just take some space. Space is always great. In space and in stillness, there's so many answers revealed. But let's go back to this key in relationships. We don't want to abandon everyone, but here's the primary person you don't want to abandon. Yourself. You do not want to abandon yourself. So we got to ask, in this dynamic, am I abandoning myself? What does that look like? I hear you asking, some of you. It looks like this. If I'm going to be close with this person, I have to mind what I say about this goal or this dream. It makes them uncomfortable. If I'm going to be in this relationship, I have to monitor the people I'm friends with, the conversations I have, because it makes them jealous. If I'm going to be in a relationship with this person, I have to agree to limitations because they are living a highly limited life and they don't see what I see. They don't believe in what I believe. So in those moments, we choose to make them comfortable and say yes to them, agree to what they're agreeing to, meet them there, and by doing that, we abandon those parts of us. Or we can say, I don't agree with that. Here's where I stand with this. What do you think? And have a productive conversation. Now, if there's people you can't have productive conversations with, then that gives you an answer all in itself. Now, when it comes to relationships, it is growth, right? There are growths. And I love, like Marianne Williamson talks about this. She has a book, Enchanted Love. And she talks about, and it's more about intimate love relationships. But nevertheless, she talks about this idea of this beautiful enchanted love and what that really means. And it also talks about relationships as this rite of passage and that they are true spiritual teachers. And I agree. All of our relationships are. We grow and learn through each other. We experience ourselves through one another. But we just want to be mindful that we're not choosing the same lesson over and over again and smacking our head against the same proverbial wall and missing out on the next stage of growth and the next stage of growth, because there's so many stages. You are this infinite being. There's parts of you that are absolutely infinite, right? So are you limiting yourself by choosing to hang on to dynamics that no longer serve you? So going back to this reason, season, or a lifetime situation, or reflection, let's call it. When we're going back to that, we can look at the people in our lives and ask, does this feel like a season? Was there a reason? Or is it a lifetime? And there are times where there's people that you grow. I mean, life it's ebbs and flows. So there's people that you may grow away from and then you'll come back closer to. But see, the whole key to all of this is giving it all space and trusting in life's way. One thing I've learned through my transition, and for anyone that's read my book, and even if you're just listening to me strictly off this podcast, you get the bit of my story from when I shared in my intro, that from someone who was transporting drugs and living an illegal life and being addicted to drugs and in abusive relationships, me today would never hang out with that version of me. Why would I? It's freaking toxic. That energy does not resonate any sort of way. But here's the thing. So in that transition, I've had a few friends that have actually move through the growth with me. Now, we weren't always close. We had to have those seasons of growth, the seasons of inward exploration, and then we found our way again sometimes. And you see this in other relationships, right? Like I've seen it with friends who start dating someone and then years later they reconnect with them and then they start dating, they get married, they have children. These things happen. So I would say the key to all of this is be willing to detach yourself from the outcome and primarily move into what you feel. This isn't a sudden emotion like, I'm so mad at this person, they did this to me, and I'm done with them. So you don't want to move and make decisions from that place. Where I suggest you make decisions from is just listening in this way deeper space. And what I mean by way deeper space is that you will feel the people that light you up. It's a vibrational thing here, guys. So you'll feel, we really don't have to choose. And when I say you don't have to choose, it's because there's something in us that's sparking desires, right? How many times have you wanted to love someone or wanted to care for them, or you're like, oh my gosh, this person is perfect on paper. They're everything that I thought that I wanted, but there's just not chemistry there, right? And the same thing with friends. I've had women that I had like admired on the internet, and I thought that when I met them, we were just going to hit it off. We're going to be like two peas in a pod. It was going to be perfect. And when I met them, I'm like, we just don't vibe. It's not like that. So my belief is that we don't really get to choose, that something's choosing for us. And if we are willing to believe it and trust it, let's let life decide for us. So life is always reorganizing the people and the characters in our life. If you think of your life as a story and there's something unfolding, you are the main character, and the characters that are surrounding are going to change. The supporting roles are going to shift. Can we do it without having major freakouts and major fallbacks? So I learned this even for myself. This weekend, I had to let go of someone on my team, and it's someone that I love. And it was this very familiar situation. But when I got really clear on what I was feeling, it wasn't the first time I felt it. So it wasn't a kind of radical like decision that I was like, oh my gosh, I just woke up and this is how I feel. And it's not that we're going to disregard those things, but we can take time and give it space and listen and really explore what's there for us and make sure it's really ours and make sure that it rings true and it's there, right? So it wasn't the first time I felt it. And in that dynamic, I feel like I'm abandoning my knowing here. I feel like this is expired. So in knowing that, I had to decide to let it go, lovingly release. And even in doing that, I decided to do it before I was really ready because there was no one else to fill the spot. Now, for some of you in a love relationship, how many times have you felt, yeah, but I don't want to be alone. I don't want to be alone. So I'm going to stay with this person. But here's what you miss out on. You miss out on this truth that you've got to let go and make space for that upgrade. You got to let go and make space for the upgrade. But for some of you, you're not willing. You're not willing to explore what that feels like in that in-between space. So then this leads me to this question that I love to ask when it comes to relationships. And you guys, I do a lot of work around relationships. I've had people that come to me strictly to let go of past lovers. And because there's so much forgiveness work, and a lot of it is subconscious inner child fears around abandonment. And I know that because it's something I've dealt with. But what I know is that your most important relationship needs to be yourself with spirit. If you're a spiritual person, I'd say that there's something about you that is somewhat spiritual if you're here listening to me. So are you willing to explore that? Are you willing to explore that in-between space to get to know yourself? To get to know yourself without having someone else come in and lead the way and dictate how you feel? I don't know. You have to really explore that, because here's what happens here. If you're unwilling to be alone, then most likely the relationships that you keep because you're unwilling to let go of things, you're unwilling to trust in life's process for you, is that a lot of things become stagnant in your life because you're resisting, and that you are choosing out of fear and lack versus love and expansion. You see, love and expansion choices sound like this. I know that life wouldn't lead me wrong. I know my desires are for me, and therefore I'm going to trust in what I am feeling. I'm willing to explore what life has for me because I trust what life has for me. I'm willing to trust that there are upgrades available. I'm willing to trust that there's something that's more suited for me at this season of my life. But are you? So in that in-between, there's going to be times where that transitional period makes you question yourself. That's what our minds do. Our mind, isn't your mind so great at that? I know my mind is like a freaking expert at that. But what I've learned, the times that I've weathered it out, whether it was a job that I let go of, a program that I said I don't want to be a part of anymore, whether it was something like an ex, every time I learned that intuition was accurate. So can you allow? And can you trust? And can you put your relationship with you first? Because only then will you really know what you need. Until then, you'll be choosing from fear. You'll be clinging to what I call blankie. And blankie looks different for all of us. Sometimes it's that job that sucks, but you're like, it has benefits. Forgetting that, hello, there are many jobs with benefits, and you get to create your own income. You can step up. You are not a victim to falling into that trap. We could talk about that on another thing, money mindset, entrepreneur episode. But for some of you, the blankie piece is a friend that you just can't say no to. You're afraid they may not like you. You're afraid that if you finally admit this doesn't work for me any longer, and then they admit it, they're feeling it too. These things are not one way. There's always a lot of fear involved though. And if you let go, you're afraid of what may happen. Trust me, just like that little toddler that the blankie gets pulled away from and they cry for maybe a week, they get stronger, they become more resilient, and there's something else out there for them to grow into, to enjoy, and to experience. And that's what's going to happen for you. So if you know someone that is hanging on to a relationship, if you know someone that is trying to decide or to gather up the courage to leave a relationship, or they're wondering, am I crazy? Or is it really time to leave this relationship? Or they have that group of mean girls that they can't stop gossiping about each other. And I have to tell you that gossip is just toxic, as we know, but I would invite you to just release relationships that involve you gossiping with people. You are a powerful being. You have better things to do than gossip about other people. You got things to create. You got people to help. You got money to make. Stop. But before you cut those relationships off, I would invite you to do something even more courageous. And my friends know I have these kind of conversations with them. I would say, here's what doesn't feel good to me anymore, and I'm no longer willing to be a part of this. And I've had conversations with friends where I'm like, yeah, but isn't that person your friend? Or, you know what makes me uncomfortable about this is that when you say that about them, I know that you say that about me probably. What are you saying about me? And they're like, ah, blah, blah, blah. So it's a habit for a lot of people, but don't fill your time with that. Choose to be on a mission. Choose to be about something higher and better. So anyway, if there's someone that you know needs this, please share it with them. Ask them to come on over and subscribe. There's going to be a lot of things on this episode or on this podcast about worthiness, about leaving relationships, about growing better ones, about saying yes to yourself, about creating new relationships with your money, with your mission, all that. So I'm sending you lots of love. And that is how we shift, my friends. Before you go, I want to remind you to take time and celebrate your progress today. No matter where you are on your path, you're showing up for yourself. I know it because you're listening to this podcast. I'm so glad we got to spend this time together today. And you know I love to hear your shifts from the show. Don't forget, your review means the world to me on iTunes. Please leave a review, subscribe, and share with your favorite people. If you're ready for more, head over to my website and download my free 5-day Access Your Abundance meditation series. This series has been changing lives all year. Now it's your turn. Until next time, live your best life.